Now, the next speaker is Dr. Zabta Khan Shanwari. He is the Vice President of Islamic Academy of Sciences. He is the Secretary General of Pakistan Academy of Sciences. So he will be talking about biodiversity, nexus, and security in OIC nations. Ms. Zabta Khan Shanwari, please.
Thank you very much, sir. I'm really grateful and grateful to all His Excellencies coming from many countries. Thank you. And can I have a slide, please, next, or shall I do it from here? Not much to speak when Professor Adnan Badran, Ataur Rahman, and all these guys, and now finally by you, Hassan brother. So this was a great, not much left for me to add to all that. But when we talk about what I have done is, if I go back, try to nexus the biodiversity and security to take it a bit different. And so when we talk about I will not go into details, the importance of biodiversity, everybody is well aware of it. If you talk about the hotspot, if you talk about, specifically, I'm speaking about OIC countries today, and some case studies from the OIC countries. So we have our religion, in fact, ask us to conserve biodiversity. There are several hadiths and there are several things that has an importance on this. And then, of course, we are still living in some kind of a traditional societies. So it has an impact on our livelihoods and local economies. Talk about medicinal plants, talk about, other aspects of the biodiversity. Then again, we'll be giving some examples. And of course, environment stability and biodiversity as a security asset that we have. When we talk about the global context, then there is that we talk about the ecosystem services, we talk about the climate regulation, etc. There is where we need the biodiversity that we have to somehow conserve it. You talk about the forest that we have in West Africa, the conservation issues that we have are almost common with all OIC countries. That is the logging and that is agriculture and bushmeat hunting, etc., etc. In Saudi Arabia, we, on one side, I'm talking about the importance of the key species, what we call it keystone species for various region of the biodiversity. Like in Saudi Arabia, we have Arabian leopard, and then Red Sea and Gulf of Aden. Then Jordan, our beloved country, Jordan, we can talk about the Rifat Valley, the migratory birds that you host in Jordan, and mammals like Nubian ibex and reptiles. That is the most important for that. Dana biosphere reserves in Jordan, the fauna, the Syrian wolf, the sand kid, very, very important for that we need to somehow conserve it. Wadi Rum, Azraq wetland reserves, Mujib nature reserves, and you may be knowing more, Professor Adnan Badran, than I, but this is what I'm talking about, the importance that you have for the world, that you need to conserve it, specifically the migratory bird that we have, the eastern shore of the Dead Sea that has Nubian ibex, or raptors that we have. So there are several things that are very important that we have. If we talk about Pakistan, I usually say one sentence about Pakistan, that this is the only country in the world that stretches from 0 meter to 8,611 meters. Such a diverse kind of altitude nowhere in the world. You may talk about Everest. They have mountains that they wish that they could have some plain land like we have in Punjab, in Sindh, and Balochistan. They wish to have that one. So you are the only country in the world that has such a diverse kind of environment, flora that you have. So that's why, and again, the three biggest mountain regions meet in Pakistan: Karakoram, Hindu Kush, Himalaya. And again, geologically, Qasim Jan is here, I can't dare to speak about that. But then all these have those important both flora and fauna that are really endemic in these regions. And we somehow, if we lose it, the world loses it. And some of the examples that I have quoted here, if you talk about Indus River Delta, and Kausar Malik remained on the WWF board, and he knows all about these issues. This is the most important country that needs to conserve all these things that they have, third desert, Balochistan Plateau, etc. So, in a nutshell, what I'm talking to you is that OIC country, though maybe financially poor, but naturally very rich. And they somehow have to conserve all this for the world, not only for themselves. So that's why this is not only intrinsic value, but the human livelihood for sustainable development and the heritage that we have inherited from our forefathers. That is how we need to conserve that. So when we talk about this nexus with the security, now that is if you talk about the food security, of course, agriculture, pollination services, sustainable fisheries, etc. You talk about in the morning about the sea accumulation of carbon, and that we are now facing a lot of problems. Even the human sperms, they have plastic nanoparticles in it. And that is the level of pollution that we are living in now. This is the recent study that they have found something there also. So that is what we are conserving, and that is what we are consuming and getting it there. So, and if you talk about soil health and fertility, again, soil biodiversity that we are having and we are losing it. And finally, pest and disease control, one health that we talk about, human, environment, animals, all considered as one, because now the boundaries are really within these three are smashed almost. This is one, and we have to work interdisciplinary to address all this. Climate resilience, nutrition. I'm going quick because the Secretary General whispered me that I have to keep time short. Nutritional security and livelihood and economy. All this is somehow, when we relate it to the security of the nations of the OIC, we need all this. And I have, again, it's stuck. Can you go forward, please? Yeah, I'm doing it. It's not working. Not from here. Yeah. Nothing, not working. If she's not doing from here, she's not doing from here. जल्दी करो बेटा, नसीरिया किसको इधर बैठ जाए एक बंदा. क्या बोलूं? There's something there in the computer. बेटा ये नहीं काम कर रहा, आप में से एक बंदे इधर दूसरा बैठ देखो. जल्दी जल्दी, can I will try to finish in 5 minutes if you can. Yeah, thank you. Then we are here for, this will work when that works. Water security, natural water, regulatory water, pH balances, conductivity, all that again linked to the, and the health security, medicinal resources, and DNA, disease regulation. Economy security, environmental security, natural disaster mitigation, all this linked somehow to your biodiversity. If you lose that, you lose all these, you are fragile to all this. So that is why we are talking about, when we talk about food, water, health, economic, climate, political, social, environmental security, you have to talk about biodiversity. And you have to think about that if you want to really secure all that you have. And how good is it? The new discovery, the carbon dioxide is challenging decade-old ventilation doctrine, what we call it, that the virus stays more if the air is polluted. It stays alive for more time if your environment is polluted. If it has more carbon dioxide, the environment, the virus will stay for a longer period of time. If it is clean air, the virus will die quickly. So that is the new things that we are having. So we are creating something for ourselves. And this was a recent study about the COVID-19 that this says why the aerosol remains for 3 hours more as compared to the normal things if your things are computer. Once again, please go ahead. It's not working again. The biggest genome that when we talk about the importance of diversity, one of the species of fern, a small herb, is the biggest genome ever recorded. It is 160 billion base pair, and it is 11 billion more than previous record holder, the base pair of the species that we have. And this is one of the flowering and 50 times more than the human genome. So this is the nature that you have. And this genome is then having keys for various, then now whatever you are having for CRISPR-Cas9 and all that, you can find small pieces in these genomes that can help you to transgene, not even only the plants, but also other living organisms that you can work on it. There are questions about it. In Florida, they had genetically engineered mosquitoes that finally they will wipe up all the other mosquitoes. There will be only one gender, blah, blah, blah. But then there are a lot of debate of ecosystem services that if all mosquitoes are gone, what will happen to frog? What will happen to snakes? This is the food of one, then on the food chain. So these are the questions that we need to address it. 2024, again, the same risks that we are confronted for the last several decades now. But the addition is misinformation, disinformation one, that you don't need to deploy a bioweapon. Only the handling of social media can create such a havoc that is more dangerous than a bioweapon, because people will not vaccinate themselves. People will have a lot of issues. That this is one the academies of sciences need to address these issues, to talk to the policymakers what we need to do in the future. Cost of living crisis, cyber attack, and all that what we need to address. These are the issues that is to summarize all this. Climate change impact on the upper side, and there are a lot of good things that scientists are doing at the bottom. And that is what we address, the issues in the center. If you talk about the soil, water, seed biodiversity, you have issues of droughts, floods, erosion, heat, for example. But then we are doing a lot of good work in the biodiversity conservation, promotion, soil and water management, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. So again, I'm going very quick. If you go from soil, water, seed, biodiversity to food production, to processing, to transport, to retail, to consumption, all this issues on the top, and on the bottom, there are solutions for it, like fortification. Kausar Malik Lab is doing something on fortification of the crops, the transgenic crops that they are producing, and there are several others that we can. This one slide shows you all the issues as well as how to address them, what the scientists are doing there for that. But the decline, this is the data again, 6 to 14% decrease in the global food production by 2050. This is what is being produced because of the climate change, because of the stress that the plants will have. And then increase in the insecurity, 1.36 billion by 2050 will be malnourished or food insecure. And come down, the issue that we are having, India will lose 16% of its production, China 22%, and like all that. This country will lose their crops by this data, and Africa, of course, the decline by 8 to 11%, Australia and all others. So this is what we predict if the way that we are going. So we have to find solution for all that. And the crisis that in 2023, 281 million people were facing, crisis. And here, catastrophic, Palestine, the whole population is almost facing problems. And that is that we need to address the human crisis that is being faced now, the data that is there. And of course, Somalia, South Sudan, Mali, etc., the people that were facing problem with all this, the food crisis and their finding in different countries. The data is here. I'm not going to read for you because of the time that we are faced with. When I talk about One Health, decrease of biodiversity and vector-borne diseases that we are having, this is interlinked. If an area is rich in biodiversity, it is not spreading the diseases that they are there. So that is linked, and somehow you have to conserve for yourself if you want. Some of the case studies, for example, in Indonesia, the good things that are happening. I told you the crisis in OIC countries. Now, the positive aspect of OIC countries that they are doing, like importance of mangrove restoration in Indonesia, the challenges that they were facing, and what they are doing, the restoration efforts, reforestation, community involvement, and policy and legislation. There are several projects that they are there, and the future direction they are focusing it. So humans are doing something else, so good things that we need to mention there. Another example from Morocco, water management, soil conservation, diversification, rotation, etc. And there are some policy and education government plans that they're there. So there are efforts that people are doing. So we need to mention and strengthen them, all of us, to make it. Now this is some kind of a recommendation that we can have, a strategic framework. Now I'm talking about the IAS and the academies, Arab academies, that they are doing it like Islamic Declaration of Sustainable Development, Program Action of OIC 2025, institutional mechanism in ISESCO and others. These are the efforts, positive efforts of the OIC countries in different fora that they're doing something. So when we talk about the issues, we also discuss some of the positive things that they are happening. Policy recommendation now, sir, this is for you specifically, that what we need is that we have strengthened institutional framework. We have to establish a task force in IAS. We can work with various academies, those who are interested in the world, specifically Islamic countries. I was approached by ISC. I sent you an email also that they were asking us that IAS should, in Oman, we have a general body next year, early year. So we are planning that IAS will play a major role there. And we are, proposing some good issues for them, like having a task force that will work with them. We can build capacity of our academies, and then regional cooperation with various academies of OIC countries. If they are interested, if they are not, we cannot force them, push them, but then mobilize some resources. We can, IDB can be approached. We can get some funding for them, ecosystem restoration that can work. And of course, we can, address all these issues, the 5, 6, 7, 8, that they are there, that if you could work on that. Some future, last sentence, that the trends, what we need to do is no more specialized field or that, have positive impact. We have to have interdisciplinary work. When we have AI, machine learning, all this, we can also, have integrated approach of biodiversity conservation. We can involve the communities. We can have urban biodiversity plans with the local specifically plants, not any invasive or imported species, and then climate resilient conservation effort that we could have it. And of course, for youth and future leaders, we could have education and awareness, leadership and advocacy, innovation and entrepreneurship. And of course, we can work with other similar organizations that is there. We are already IAP, TWAS, and all others. If you could join hand with them, we can get some good output and we can have some good global network and collaboration that can work for us. Call for actions, what we need towards the countries, legislations, funding, climate action, etc., local stewardship, global conservation, etc. This is for policymakers, this is for communities. And I'm really grateful specifically for our leadership, Professor Adar Badran, Ilyas Baidoun, and all others, Brother Hassan and Professor Maza. Thanks for coming to Pakistan in this difficult time. Most welcome, Brother Liaquat is sitting from Bangladesh. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Zabta Shanwari. Finishing your talk well in time. Our next